Hello, folks. Welcome back to Merrill Math. I'm Mr. Merrill, and today we're talking about solving and graphing inequalities. Your question might be, what is an inequality? What does it mean for things to be unequal? Well, if something is not equal to something else, what does that mean? We could have one side greater than the other side, one side less than the other side. And in some cases, it could be greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And we have symbols, mathematical symbols, for approaching those. So I know a lot of people, when they're introduced to inequalities, they learn them as like an alligator. I remember my teacher, I think it might have been second grade when we first got introduced to this idea of greater than or less than. You think of one side as being bigger than the other. It's like an alligator. It eats the other one. And these symbols have meaning. The one way to think of it as, one way to think of it is one side of a triangle. This, if we put the third side here, this is the bigger side than that side. Or if we put our third side of our triangle here, that's the bigger side than that side. It's sort of, at any rate, we have these symbols that we're going to be using. So we're going to be solving inequalities, and we're going to be graphing them as well. For our first example, we've got x minus 5 is greater than 9. So this symbol means greater than. Now, the way that we approach it is exactly like we would approach an equation. So if this said x minus 5 equals 9, what we would do is add 5 and add 5. So on the left-hand side, we've got x, and this is going to stay the same. 9 plus 5 is 14. So the solution is x is greater than 14. So as long as we have a number in here that's bigger than 14, then this statement will be true. So then we have to graph this. Now, I always tell students, if you're graphing an inequality, it needs to have some ingredients here. So you've got your line. We always want to put 0 somewhere, just so we kind of have a baseline for where we're at. In this case, we've got 14. We'll put him about right there. So we can say that's 14. Now, when we go to graph it, we're thinking of all the numbers greater than, but we're also thinking about 14. So what about 14? Well, if we use 14 in this, 14 minus 5 is equal to 9. But we said greater than. So in this case, we can't include 14. So what we do is we leave an open circle at that point. So 14 is not included, but everything greater than it is. Now, the trick to knowing whether this point is included or not, if we go back up here, if you have a line underneath, include the point. If you don't have a line, leave the point out. It's open. Okay, so example 2 says 1/4 x minus 2 is less than negative 1. So again, we treat this like we would an equation, and the way that we would approach an equation is to deal with the negative 2 first. Or the minus 2, sorry. So this minus 2 we can get rid of by adding 2. And it's, again, just like an equation. So we do the same thing to both sides. We've got 1/4 x is less than negative 1 plus 2. That's going to be a positive 1. And the way that we get rid of 1/4 is to multiply by 4, or divide by 1/4. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. And that gives us x is less than 4. 4 times 1 is 4. So when we go to graph this guy, again, we need to have some ingredients here. We've got our line. We've got 0. We've got 4. Now we're looking at less than. It doesn't have the line, so we're going to leave this point open, and we're going to go to this side. So these are all the numbers that are less than. Another trick for knowing which direction you're going to shade, if your variable is on the left side, which is typically how we write them and read them, if your variable is on the left, this sort of acts like an arrow and it points to that direction that you want to shade. Okay, example 3. Here we've got two variables, so we have to be careful about that. We notice that we do have a line underneath, so when we go to graph this, we're going to need to include the point that we get. Let's look at dealing with this. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. And that gives me, I'm going to come down over here, x is less than or equal to 2x minus 10. So after we've subtracted the 8, we're at this step. We need to get this over to the other side. The way that we do that is by subtracting it. So minus 2x. So that gives us x is less than or equal to negative 10. Now, one thing you want to be careful of, and I just about made this mistake, so x minus 2x, that is a negative x. So you have to be careful about your signs here. So you want to watch when your signs change. Speaking of changing signs, the last step that we have to do is to divide by a negative 1. So there's a minus x here. That means we divide by a negative 1. Whenever you divide or multiply an inequality by a negative number, that flips this sign. So this is going to flip to greater than. So we're going to divide everything by negative 1, so that leaves us with x. This flips, so we got greater than, and then this becomes a positive 10. Now when we go to graph it, again, we need some ingredients here. We want to know where 0 is at. We'll say 10's right about there, and we're greater than or equal to, so we're going to include this point, and we're going to go to the right. Okay, last one. 2 minus 3x is less than 14. So we want to get the x by itself. We're going to start by subtracting 2. So we have a negative 3x is less than 14 minus 2. That's going to be 12. Here we're going to take this and divide by a negative 3. And that's going to flip this sign around. I'm going to come over to the side here. That's going to flip this sign around. So we've got x. It's no longer less than. It's going to be greater than. 12 divided by negative 3. So positive divided by a negative gives me a negative 4. So again, we can go to graph this. We need to know where 0 is. Ooh, no, let's change that because we got to go this direction. So let's say this is negative 4. Let's say this is 0. And we are greater than negative 4. So we're not going to include this point, but we're going to shade to the right. And that is how you can approach solving and graphing inequalities. If you have any questions, comments, points of clarification, feel free to leave those in the comments below. If this video helped you out at all, be sure to hit like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, points of clarification, leave those in the comments below. Thanks for watching.